This is a breath-holding match between Beth and Lawrence, and it is a special contest with great disparity in strength. When Beth made the ready gesture, the people by the pool showed contemptuous smiles. Obviously, they were not optimistic about the game. At first, both seemed at ease, with Lawrence putting his hands on the ground and looking relaxed, but as time passed, Beth was the first to show signs of exhaustion. Lawrence knew that Beth was going to lose it, and Lawrence's mouth slowly curled into a triumphant smile. Beth also spit out more blisters at this point. Beth's body suffered intense discomfort from exceeding the limit, so Beth had to desperately surface. Beth eventually lost the game, but Beth won everyone's applause, because Beth has broken the human body's breath-holding limit of 39 minutes and 23 seconds, but the game was clearly not over yet, and Lawrence made a dangerous move at this time. After holding his breath for 39 minutes and 23 seconds, Lawrence broke free from the life jacket he was wearing. This frightened everyone on the shore, and immediately someone wanted to jump into the water to rescue them. But they were strongly stopped by Luther. Lawrence swung his slender and powerful body back and forth in the pool. The ultimate speed and the ultimate graceful swimming stroke use human mechanics and biology to the limit. The extraordinary talent shown by Lawrence stunned everyone on the shore. At this moment, Lawrence is a big fish swimming freely in the deep ocean. Until the moment Lawrence surfaced, the time finally stopped at 42 minutes and 07 seconds. Everyone was cheering and applauding Lawrence, and Luther also showed a gratified smile. But Lawrence seemed very calm, because no one knew how much hardship and sweat Lawrence paid for this. Before each training session, a nutritionist would give Lawrence an injection of nucleic acid polymers in advance. The injection increases blood oxygen levels in the body, allowing Lawrence to stay in the water longer. Over the next few weeks, Lawrence will continue to inject a full 300 doses without interruption. Lawrence's arm was already riddled with holes, so he continued the injection in another place. Lawrence's training is also several times that of ordinary people. The daily training pool is even released with 20% liquid slurry. The instructors must wear thermal clothing all the way before entering to prevent frostbite. Then there is anaerobic training on land. Everyone has to carry a 15% nitrogen cylinder on their backs for ultra-long distance mountain training. Those who couldn't persist in the middle were eliminated on the spot, and the rest continued the cruel training day after day. They ran and swam desperately, trying to break through the limits of their bodies every day, but all the preparations they have made for this are not to participate in the 2026 Milan Winter Olympics, but to go to the Sea of Stars farther away. The one orbiting Saturn is the largest planet. It is 10 times larger than Mercury and is the only planet in the solar system with air. It turns out that in the future world, along with the geometric doubling of the population, wars and natural disasters will follow one after another, with the gradual depletion of the Earth's resources. Half of the Earth will no longer be suitable for human habitation within 10 years, and more than half of the world's people will starve to death within 15 years, but with the current technology of human beings, it is simply impossible to transform any planet. They decided to allow humans to adapt to the extreme harsh climate on Titan by genetically modifying themselves, but will it really work? Lucy suddenly discovered that a pinhole camera had been installed at home, not only on the wall, but also on the distribution box. But strangely, Lucy didn't say it, because her husband Lawrence has been sitting in the swimming pool for 3 days since he participated in a human experiment. The skin on his body floated away from his arm with just a slight pull, and even the skin on his back began to fall off. Lawrence now spends even more time in the water than in bed, and something is wrong with Lawrence's friends, each of whom seems to have a monster that is about to wake up inside. That night, Lucy finally couldn't sit still, and secretly collected a sample of Lawrence's vomited blood, and took it under a microscope for observation. Lucy discovers that Lawrence's blood seems to be undergoing some kind of change. On the same day, something happened that night, and both of Lawrence's eyes were ruptured. Lucy told Dr. Luther, who led the experiment, that there was another living creature living in Lawrence's body, but Luther sent Lucy away vaguely, and the worst was just beginning. When Lucy was packing Lawrence's clothes, a large number of army soldiers suddenly came outside, holding 2 babies in their arms. This time, a woman suddenly broke the glass and was thrown out of the house. The man, whose size had changed obviously, was quickly shot dead by the soldiers who arrived. Everything that was originally normal around me seemed to be undergoing some unknown changes. In order to find out the truth behind it, Lucy secretly took Lawrence's name tag. After bypassing the guards outside the door, Lucy used the name tag to open the door leading to the depths of the base. There are obviously more guards inside than outside. After entering Luther's room, Lucy found that it was full of pictures about human body structure, and there were even incomprehensible genetic formulas, but the really useful information is on the desk. All the records in these files are related to the hybridization experiments of human and animal genes. It turned out that Luther's real purpose was to forcefully intervene in the evolution of humans through surgery. When Luther came again, Lucy finally broke out. Only then did Luther have to tell the truth behind it. It turned out that Luther annotated a special enzyme to everyone who participated in this experiment. This enzyme can change human genes so that they can adapt to the harsh environment on the Titan planet more quickly, but the experiment is not perfect. So far, 2 subjects have died, but if he didn't move on to the next operation, Lawrence would lose his mind within 48 hours and surely die within 72 hours. The only thing he can do now is to pray that this experiment will be successful, and this time, the decision was in the hands of Lawrence. When his son Kent helped Lawrence remove the gauze, Lawrence's face was so pale that he was no longer human, but Lawrence was able to stay in the water longer and longer, and even the night could not block his vision. May I ask which man can resist this superpower? Lawrence took the initiative to call Dr. Luther, and there were several other teammates who operated with Lawrence, but whoever got off the operating table alive depended on luck. This is Lucy. Seeing Lawrence for the first time after the operation, the pale skin and very different appearance of a human made Lucy so frightened that she shed tears after undergoing human surgery. Lawrence can now only communicate through low frequency and touch. No one could hear them but those of his kind. But before Lawrence goes to Titan, he can go home first. Lucy cried even harder when she heard that. Lucy took Lawrence home anyway. Lucy packed Lawrence's luggage beside him, but Lawrence couldn't put on the clothes he used to wear. Lucy wanted to go to help, but was knocked to the ground by Lawrence. Lucy was even more frightened and backed away after the operation. Lawrence also prefers to stay in the water. There is not only a layer of glass between them, but also an insurmountable gap. In the middle of the night, when Lucy was going downstairs, she suddenly saw another Lisa walking into the house. Lawrence seemed to have noticed something and slowly got out of the water, only to find that the other Lisa's hands were covered with blood. Lucy also walked over curiously at this time. Lucy found that Lawrence was having some kind of communication with each other, but the way the two communicated was very special. Just through the slender tentacles protruding from the fingernails, you can know what the other party is thinking. At this time, the army had already followed and surrounded them soon. I thought it would be a fierce battle, but Lisa fell to the ground after a few shots. Several soldiers slowly stepped forward to trap Lisa. The result was the next second. Lisa was easily killed just like that, but this also completely angered Lawrence. These soldiers were not his opponents at all, and they killed everyone in 2 or 3 hits. Lucy, who heard the movement, hurried out with her son in her arms, and Lawrence seemed to have regained human consciousness. Looking at the terrified Lucy and son, Lawrence turned and disappeared into the night. The military immediately sent people to search for Lawrence. The military vehicles dispatched one after another, but Lawrence was never found. Lucy seemed to know where Lawrence was. After Lucy settled in Kent, Lucy ran out alone. This used to be where Lucy and Lawrence dated. After yelling a few times, Lawrence really came out from the darkness. Although Lawrence is no longer human, Lucy still chooses to accept him. At this time, a helicopter spotted them. With a flash of white light, Lucy was already lying on the hospital bed when she woke up. Dr. Luther then took Lucy to a military base. In order to prevent Lawrence from rebelling, they locked Lawrence in an iron cage. Lucy now has to face 2 choices. Either let the soldiers execute Lawrence on the spot, or choose one of these potions. Let Lawrence forget everything about the Earth from now on, so that Lawrence can live as a Titan. Lucy took the syringe from the general and walked step by step to the iron cage where Lawrence was held. When the two met again, Lawrence already knew Lucy's choice, and Lawrence did not choose to resist. With the injection of the drug, Lawrence quickly fell into a coma, which also relieved Dr. Luther outside. Just as the general was walking towards the iron cage with the nitrogen cylinder, Lucy quietly took away the female assistant Anna next to him. By the time Dr. Luther found out that something was wrong, it was too late. It turned out that Lucy had exchanged the injection sample in advance, and now it was Lawrence's turn to kill. Lucy escapes the base with Anna after finding her son Dada T. This time, Lawrence suddenly caught up, but Lawrence is in a bad state now. Just when Anna was about to treat Lawrence, a large number of soldiers caught up and surrounded them. The rebellious test subjects were of no use to Luther, who ordered everyone to be shot. The general quickly drew out his pistol at this moment, but all the soldiers pointed their guns at Luther. Although Luther was very angry now, it was of no use. Lawrence finally survived, but this is no longer the Earth, but Saturn's largest Titan planet. But who knows if Titan planet will be the next Earth?